How's it going, everyone? Bass here. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the potential of the Green Bay Packers defense being a top 3 defense for this upcoming 2022 season. But before I get started, if you are new here and want more Packers news analysis and updates and videos such as this one, please consider going down, clicking the subscribe button. It supports my channel a ton, and also leaving a like on the video. Also, a couple weeks ago, I made a Packers Discord chat, so if you want to join that, the link is down in the description below. Just go click that link. All right, so firstly, I wanted to go over last year's rankings and also go over what changed from the Packers defense from 2021 to 2022. So first, let's go over rankings. So points against last year, the Packers were 14th in the NFL. For yards, they were 9th. For takeaways, they were also 9th. For passing yards, they were 10th. Interceptions, they were 7th. And rushing yards, they were 11th. So generally speaking, the Packers did have a top 10 defense last year, probably right around that 9 or 10 mark overall. And that was without Jaire Alexander for most of the year, who is one of their best players, if not their best player on the defense. And also Zadarius Smith was out the entire year except for a couple drives in week 1, but that's kind of irrelevant at this point. But now let's go over some of the meaningful players who got meaningful snaps on the defense last year who are not on the team anymore. And we're going to start with Kevin King, who they theoretically could still re-sign, and a lot of people are on that train. They want them to re-sign Kevin King as like a 4th cornerback, which I think would be a good idea. It's just you don't want Kevin King to be your number 1 or your number 2. First off, he can't stay healthy. Second off, he's wildly inconsistent. But last year, he played decent. In the 6 games he did start, he played in 10 games. He had a 70.6 PFF grade. Then we have Henry Black, who is the Packers' 3rd safety, and he was not a good one at all. It seemed every time Henry Black was out on the field covering a tight end or a running back, he got beat, and his PFF grade shows that, a 43.9 PFF grade. Then we have another defensive back in Chandan Sullivan, who is the Packers' starting slot cornerback, another wildly inconsistent player. Some games he looked okay, some games he looked really bad, a 55.0 PFF grade. Then we have Kingsley Keke, who supposedly had a fallout with some of the coaches, and that's why the Packers cut him. Started 8 games at defensive end, didn't really show much. I thought it was going to be a big year for Kingsley Keke. I said that all last year. I will eat crow. It was definitely the complete opposite, a 63.4 PFF grade. And then even worse, we have Tyler Lancaster, a backup defensive lineman, and I'm just personally so glad he is gone. I wish the best for him and his family, but I just glad he's not anywhere near the Packers defense or special teams anymore. And he had a 55.8 PFF grade. And then lastly, of course, like I mentioned, Zadarius Smith didn't really play last year, so it's kind of null and void at this point. So basically, outside of Kevin King, who only started 6 games and had an okay performance in those 6 games he started, they got rid of pretty much all the issues on their defense from 2021. Got rid of all the players that played poorly. So with that being said, now let's go over who they added on defense, who they replaced all these players with. Firstly, they spent both of their first-round selections. They had 2 first-round picks. They spent them both on defense in a year where a lot of people thought they would spend both of them on offense. They still went defense, which is huge. Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, both out of Georgia, and will likely start to begin the year at both defensive line and linebacker too. Quay Walker already took over for Chris Barnes at that inside linebacker 2 spot, which I think is a big improvement. Obviously, he hasn't played a single NFL snap, but in terms of athleticism and potential, obviously, I think Quay Walker does have more than Chris Barnes, and I think he will fit better for what Joe Barry wants with a linebacker next to someone like Devondre Campbell. I think Quay Walker will excel in that position. Then, of course, upgrading Kingsley Keke, or Tyler Lancaster to Devontae Wyatt should also be a wild improvement. Also, drafting Kingsley Enagbare, who a lot of people saw as a really crazy draft steal that late in the draft, who will likely be a very solid depth edge rusher year 1. And the return of a fully healthy Jaire Alexander is basically an addition. I'm going to count it as one at least. Having a healthy Jaire locking down one entire sideline, basically Jaire Island at that point, is going to be huge. And then lastly, they also signed defensive lineman Geron Reid earlier in the year, which at this point, I think he will be a solid veteran rotational defensive lineman. I do believe Devontae Wyatt will end up starting next to Kenny Clark over Geron Reid. But Geron Reid, I think, will be a much better rotation guy than Tyler Lancaster was, which isn't hard to beat, but I think he will be that. As for other changes we started to see to this defense in the beginning stages of the offseason with OTAs and mandatory minicamp, we saw the Packers put Rasul Douglas in the slot in minicamp at slot cornerback, which is interesting. He played outside all last year. I'm interested to see how that unfolds. I do believe Rasul Douglas can play that slot cornerback role. Everyone is wondering, are they going to put Jaire there? I just think it makes more sense sense with this because you keep Jaire at his natural position outside, locking down a number 1 wide receiver. Rasul Douglas is a physical safety build type cornerback that can really jump short to intermediate routes. We saw that last year with his multiple pick sixes and interceptions. So I think he can succeed in the slot cornerback role, and I think Matt LaFleur believes that as well. And also Rashaan Gary seemingly keeps getting better in a year where a lot of people believe he could be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He had a very good year last year, a big improvement, and it seems like the sky's the limit with this guy. I'm really excited to see him be that number 1 edge rusher on the Green Bay Packers. And of course, Preston Smith also improved a lot last year, gotten a contract extension. So really hyped to see Gary and Smith as a duo edge rusher. And then as for their worst part of their defense, which I think a lot of people would agree with me that it was their run defense last year, that seemingly, like I said, as I mentioned with the other players, has improved wildly with upgrades at almost every spot that was weak, as well as the progression of TJ Slayton, who has seemingly impressed this offseason and a lot of coaches have been raving about. In summary, I think the Packers can surely have a top 3 defense if they stay healthy, and that's obviously for anything. If you got to stay healthy, or else, you're going to have backups in there and then you're going to have issues. They added a lot of talent and got rid of all the issues that pertained in last year's defense. And it's also year 2 of the Joe Barry system, so players are just going to know the system better than they did last year as well. Overall, I'm super excited to see this defense and see how it plays this upcoming season. They clearly have invested in the right spots on this defense, and I believe that will show. So yes, I am predicting that the Packers will have a top 3 defense this upcoming 2022 season. But I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you believe the Packers can have a top 3 defense based on their roster right now, based on the fact that they stay healthy? Leave that down in the comments below. And if not, let me know what you think the defense will rank around. Just give that down in the comments below. But that about does it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one. As always, go Pack Go.